What's going on, guys? It's Smudgy here. It is that time again where we talk all things weapon mastery and gold weapon, this time for the new LAPA SMG. And I'm going to be entirely honest when I say I did not enjoy leveling this up or getting it gold. I don't know if it's because we've done so many over the past 10 months that I'm kind of over it, over the Cold War challenges. This wasn't particularly enjoyable for me. It wasn't a particularly fun gun to use. But we'll run through the attachments really quick as always, so if you do look for a specific challenge, I'd always recommend you watch the attachments because you might be using the wrong attachments and therefore my tips might not work. So quickly, I personally hate the sights. I was running the Quick Dock LED until we unlocked the Microflex and finally the Diamondback Reflex. I did equip kind of 2 times and multi-zooms when I try and do long shots just for that increased zoom. For a while I was running the muzzle brake but switched it off. The barrels are pretty important because it can be pretty slow firing and it does not hit hard even in hardcore. It just doesn't seem to do much damage. So your first barrel you unlock is pretty adequate, it'll do the job. You can put on the Cavalry Lancer if you're really struggling with damage. But then this MO3 reinforced was a great barrel for a long time, but the light tactical is personally where it's at for me, purely for the fire rate plus the damage. And I know the damage doesn't look massive, but we'll get to why I switched to this later on when we get to the ammo. And then we have underbarrel. Use the bruiser grip just to speed things up. You could use any of these, you could use a stock if you want, it's pretty interchangeable. I don't tend to switch these around unless it's got some pretty funky looking recoil. Now, for the mag, don't use anything, you could use a laser. I think I used a laser for the first few ones until you unlock this because it's going to add a ton to your bullet velocity, your ADS time, your reload quickness, and that's where I get the biggest boost from firepower with this setup. Obviously, you could use barrels in addition to that if you were really struggling, kind of sick of it not hitting, but I'd never really needed to quite as much once I had this. And then finally, as always, I'm using the drop shot wrap until we unlock the airborne elastic wrap. As far as game modes, Nuketown, Halloween, as it is at the moment, hardcore, 6v6 face-off hardcore, all perfectly adequate, pretty standard game modes I think by this point. Nuketown more for your long shots and your enemies detected. So let's jump into the actual challenges. So the first challenge, like always, is to get 300 eliminations. Pretty easy. You should be doing this as the challenges progress. If you're not, I can't help you. I say this in every single one of these videos. And then we have 75 headshots. I honestly didn't struggle with this. I thought I was going to just because I didn't like the gun. But no, I really didn't struggle with this. It seems to kick up in quite a favourable pattern as far as headshots go. The only issue you have is that I don't know if it was, desync or just me missing some shots. It felt like I was shooting people in the head and I was not getting one-tap headshots in hardcore, which was pretty bizarre to me. But all the usual tips apply. If someone's AFK, if they're not paying attention, if you manage to flank them, and make sure you're taking the time to just shoot them in the head, it saves a lot down the line. Even if you only get 10 of those kind of easy headshots, it's 10 less you have to focus on at a later date. And then we have get 5 kills 20 times without dying. Pretty easy. Face off, even with a gun that's pretty slow firing, will grant you these opportunities. It's so chaotic and spawns can get flipped so quick and it can be just so painful if you're on the receiving end, or really beneficial if you're not on the receiving end. It's really dependent on lobbies. Obviously you could go into something like Nuketown if you were really struggling and kind of play a bit slow, a bit more passive, and kind of pick your moments, pick your kills, where everything's a bit more spread out and people have had too many things to focus on at once and they're not always looking your way. That would be another option. Then we have 50 long shots, which is the last one I got done, and it sucks. There's no other way to go about it. If you're going to equip a barrel that provides more damage, this would be the time to do it. This gun just seems to not hit distances past like 10 to 15 meters. And I know it's an SMG, but it was still pretty painful. It was real painful. I did probably about a 50-50 split between nuke down and face off. Using some of the face-off lines of sight, and even that wasn't particularly useful. Nuketown's probably the way to go if you want to streamline it and just focus on that, but you're still going to be in for a pretty rough ride. you're going to want to make sure you're tapping the trigger. There is no point holding that trigger down and hoping for the best. It just isn't viable with this gun. Make sure you're tapping it as much as you can to control that recoil. If you want to put on every recoil controlling attachment, you can do that, see if it helps. But yeah, this gun just isn't pleasant to do long shots with. It's something you've got to stick with and kind of get through, unfortunately. And we have killed 75 enemies, detected, stunned, blinded, etc. Pretty easy. You can put a field mic down within face-off, even hardcore, and it'll still count if you kill anyone in that radius. Similarly, if you go over to Nuketown, obviously you can run UAVs, you can run harps, you can run stuns and flashes if you want. I personally run stims in hardcore, but that's just me. You know, I think most people have got this down in a way that suits them. Personally, I prefer the field mic and face-off method, but I know some people prefer to run Nuketown with UAVs and stuff. We have killed 75 enemies at point blank range in multiplayer. I always struggle with this. I'm not entirely sure why. You would have seen me play a bit ratty on KGB in the gameplay behind, where I'm just trying to kind of get through these point blank kills. It's not the best gun to play aggressive with. The sprint to fire time's quite slow. The fire rate is quite slow. It doesn't really lend itself to super aggressive up close gameplay. So I was finding myself kind of lying just around the corner of choke points and just kind of picking up easy kills like that. They do add up pretty quickly doing this method, like on top of the standard point blank kills you'd maybe get in a game if you're playing normally. But yeah, definitely lying around the corners of choke points and enraging your enemies is a pretty good way to do it. And it's definitely my go-to if things are annoying me and they're not going to plan. And then we have killed 2 or more enemies rapidly in multiplayer. Not difficult. Again, face-off is going to be fantastic for this. I say this every time. You have until the medals at the top that you get for your first kill go away roughly to get your second kill, to try and give you a kind of a gauge of how long you actually have. If you are wondering what that time frame is, it's roughly for however long it takes the last medal to go off screen after your first kill. It's pretty easy. Face-offs can be your best bet. Nuketown will work as well. Any hardcore mode, people like to group together a bit more. So this one shouldn't give you too much trouble. It is a case, unfortunately, in face-off of being quite aggressive and forcing those spawns and forcing enemies to get spawn trapped just to make your life a little bit easier, because of course if you get 6 kills in a life, that counts 3 times to this challenge, so do bear that one in mind. And I do believe that is the last challenge. Yeah, this gun is not one I'll be revisiting personally. It's not really my favourite gun I've ever got gold, but it is probably the last one, at least before Vanguard comes out, I think. I hope so. I kind of want some fresh challenges, see what fresh hell Vanguard brings. But as always, if you did enjoy the video, please do give it a like. Subscribe if you want to find your way back. Hope you'll have a good day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.